Hello and welcome to Ankara, the capital of Turkey, for this new edition of the interview on France 24. I'm glad to be joined today by the Prime Minister of Turkey, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Mr. Prime Minister, hello and thank you for having us here at your residence. I wanted to start you by asking you questions about Europe. On November 9th, the European Commission has issued its latest statement on Turkey. We're going to talk about it, of course. But first, let me ask you a question. Turkey, your country, has become very confident in recent years. Economically speaking, it's booming. Geopolitically speaking, it's become a major actor in the region. Why is it so important for you, I should say almost an obsession, to join the European Union?
Well, first of all, I'd like to greet all of those who are watching your program and greet them from our residence in Ankara. Turkey has never thought about animosity in politics, and we have started this mission with the aim of making friends rather than foes. As far as our foreign policy is concerned, starting with our neighbors, we have no animosity whatsoever with any country. And the same goes for all EU members. However, if we talk about the accession process, there are some prejudices that we find saddening. We see the European Union project as a civilizational project. And that is why we have set up the Alliance of Civilization with Spain. This structure, which we have built under the umbrella of the UN, includes more than 100 countries. And if we add international organizations and institutions to that, there are more than 130, 140 countries and entities. As long as we're not a member of the EU will not become a global actor. I'm saying this very clearly, and the EU would have something missing in it. If Turkey becomes a member of the EU, it will become a bridge between the EU and 1.5 billion Muslim people around the world. The EU seems to overlook such a chance. We're not coming into the EU as a burden, but on the contrary, we're coming to help it get rid of some burdens. Of course, we will also benefit from EU membership, but the EU will also benefit from it just as much, if not more.
Biz Avrupa Birliği'ne yük olmaya da gelmiyoruz. Biz yük almaya geliyoruz. Bizim de şüphesiz ki istifademiz olacaktır ama Avrupa Birliği'nin de en az bizim kadar bundan istifadesi, menfaati olacaktır.
Now, Mr. Prime Minister, you talked about prejudices. It is clear that in Europe, Islamophobia, the fear of Islam, is growing. We've seen it in the Netherlands with Geert Wilders. We see it in Denmark, recently in Germany. How do you explain this?
I, of course, consider this as a disaster. I'm saying this clearly, as a matter of fact, as the Prime Minister of a Muslim country. I'm a leader who has proclaimed anti-Semitism as a crime against humanity. And in my position, it is logical that I also proclaim Islamophobia as a crime against humanity. And I'm saying this as a leader, and I will keep repeating it. I have said this at an international meeting as well, and it has been registered.
bütün bu adımları bir cehalet olarak görüyorum.
I think such acts are a sign of ignorance. I see this as domestic political gestures, and I also see it as a deliberate provocation. And people who are responsible for those provocations think that they are the winners, but in fact, they turn out to be the losers. I'd like to stress that Turkey and other Muslim countries must stand up for their position very clearly. According to our book, there can be no exclusion of the difference, because in our book, differences are regarded as a richness. We're seeking unity in plurality. That is why I wonder why the Western world feels uncomfortable with this plurality. It should not feel so. They should value the human being. It is because they don't value the human being that they're actually facing problems. But we don't have this problem because, to quote a great thinker, we love the human being for its creator.
Yaradandan ötürü sevmenin anlayışı içerisindeyiz.
I'd like to ask you a question about Turkish foreign policy. Often you've said that you want to build a bridge between Western Europe and the Middle East. We've seen that in recent months your relations with Israel have been very difficult. Recently the Israeli minister in charge of tourism has even called Israeli citizens to boycott your country. Do you believe that reconciliation with your old ally Israel is possible?
Let me say clearly that it is Israel who is responsible for the current state of our mutual relationship, and nobody should interpret in any other way. How can you forgive attacks from the air and from the sea against a ship sailing under Turkish flag and carrying passengers from all around the world who wanted to help other people? Because this didn't happen in Israeli waters, but in international waters. I consider it as a savage attack to act like this in international waters. There is no other explanation to this. A human rights court in Geneva also ruled that such an act represents a violation of human rights. In a UN vote, 33 countries were in favor of an investigation. Only the USA supported Israel, and 14 European countries abstained. 9 people were killed. How can we explain these deaths? Is it possible to understand this? And 24 people were injured. There were people from 33 countries on this ship. What was being carried was just humanitarian aid. Did they find any weapons? No. And they attacked these defenseless people from the air and from the sea. So there's no excuse whatsoever for such an attitude. Israel will apologize. And Israel will have to pay for compensation. And then we can start negotiating. But the president of Israel is still visiting those who committed these acts. We cannot tolerate these acts. Otherwise, I would betray my own people and those who died there, and I can't do that. Likewise, I can't do this to those who got injured.
Mr. Prime Minister, one last question as we are running out of time. Quite briefly, a key NATO summit will take place in Lisbon. There's no secret that the Americans and your NATO allies have asked Turkey to host parts of the anti-missile shield. It's a difficult option for you as well, because of course you want to keep friendly relations with your neighbour Iran, against which it is directed. Do you think that you will find a solution and that you will allow parts of this anti-missile shield to be placed on Turkish territory?
Let me be very clear about this. This is not a treaty between Turkey and the US. This cannot be accepted as such. We can only consider this in the context, in the framework of NATO, first of all. Secondly, these ballistic missile shields, who will be managing it? That's the second question. The third question, where will be the bombings be operated? On which territory? We have to know this. And fourth, no country should be named. If you start giving names of specific countries, we cannot say yes to it. Because we want to stay friends with all our neighboring countries. So if you put a name there in that report, we don't want to make any enemies, and that's what we would be doing. We want to make friends, not enemies. And if it's called ballistic missile protection system, it means it's not for attacking, but it's for protection. So we have to create our philosophy around this in this context.
Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Prime Minister of Turkey, thank you very much for being our guest in this edition of the interview on France 24. Thank you for watching. Please stay tuned on France 24. From all of us here in Ankara, goodbye.